This is Her Confidence, Her Way podcast, episode 49. Are you feeling not confident? Are you telling yourself, no, you're not good enough? You know you can do more. And you know you're better than who you are right now. Ladies, it's not time for you to give up on who you are. Welcome to Her Confidence, Her Way podcast. I am Emiko Rasmussen, a confidence building coach and host of this podcast. Each week, I will bring you guests or lessons that will help you to break through your limiting beliefs, fears, and barriers so that you can start building your own confidence and do what you really want to do without worrying about someone else's opinion. We all have a gifted talent that no one can copy, and we're here to let our talent shine. So don't limit yourself. Are you ready to begin your confidence breakthrough journey and discover your true self? Let's go. This episode is sponsored by My Confidence, My Way Online Academy. Do you have something you have been wanting to do for a long time, but you can't take your first step because you're feeling you're not good enough? You are not alone. There were so many things that I have been wanting to do, but I just couldn't do it because I wasn't confident enough. I would ask myself, am I good enough to do this? Isn't it embarrassing if this doesn't go well? I am really afraid of being judged. It all comes to 私なんかじゃ無理でしょ. Are you asking the same questions to yourself like I did? This was definitely me a couple years ago, and I finally figured it out how to take that first step towards what you have been really wanting to do. This is focusing on your strengths. If you are feeling the same way as I was feeling, you are focusing on the wrong things. And guess what? You also don't have to be confident to start something. 私なんかじゃ無理と思っている自分から、こんな私だからできるという自分を見つめ直し、本当の自分に自信を持って2018年を過ごしていきませんか? This is your time to take the one step towards what you really want to do. And I want you to give a permission to believe yourself.And we can do this together. 3週間で自分の強みを理解し、自分を信じる力をぐっと上げる。アクションアイテムがぎゅっと詰まったコース。今までやりたかったことへの一歩を踏み出し、自分のゴールを達成していきませんか? If you want to know more about My Confidence, My Way Academy, make sure to go to www.theemmystyle.com/myconfidencemywayacademy.From there, you can sign up for the wait list and you can get the special price. You will also be the first one to get notified when more information becomes available. If you sign up for this wait list, you get to have the 期間限定 special price. And of course, the special bonus, the value of this course is going to be over $500.But if you have signed up for the wait list, you are getting it under $100. So you should definitely sign up and find out what you're going to learn within 3 weeks and what are the bonuses and how I am going to be supporting for this journey. Remember, you have a gifted talent that no one can copy, and you are here to let your talent shine. So don't limit yourself.Hey ladies, welcome back to the another episode of Her Confidence, Her Way podcast. I am Emiko Rasmussen and I'm the host of this podcast. I'm a mom of 2 and I'm also a podcaster and I do a coaching on the side. I'm a confidence building coach for Japanese women and I'm of course a working mom. So many people are asking me, hey Emmy, how are you doing this? How can you work full-time and doing all those podcasting and interviewing people and coaching and everything? Well, so right now I am recording this It is, what time is this? 7:24, and it's actually Monday night. Normally, I have kids, but my neighbor asked me if my kids can play with her daughter for a little bit. And I said, why not? So I have this extra time. So, to answer you guys' question, I don't know how I do it, to be honest with you. Whenever I have extra time, I hop on and try to do my side passion project. And I also focus a lot. So whenever I'm working, I focus for my work. And when I'm done and I can kind of take some break, and that's when I kind of brainstorm, what do I want to talk next time, or who do I want to reach out for the interview. So it's really, really finding the time to, I don't really like the word balancing, but it's really, really balancing. And I also use a lot of help from people. So if I need to do an interview on the weekends, and of course I ask my friends or neighbor and see if they can watch my kids. Unfortunately, my husband, he actually works on the weekends, so it is very challenging. But I still manage it. And then I guess, okay, I think I know the answer. I'm just like talking and then I kind of figure it out. The reason why I can continue to do so is this is something that I love to do. This is my passion. And I don't mind it. I don't mind getting paid to do it, or I don't mind if I'm not necessarily stressing myself out, because I learned the hard way during the summertime. But I can push myself more. You're about to hear about this question again during the interview that I am about to share. So definitely take a listen. I think I say very similar things. So yeah, I think this is how I do it. If you are trying to do something and it's not working, it might be because of the passion. Maybe that's not something that you're not motivating to do. And I get that, because as a working career woman or working moms, whatever you are, there's always going to be things that you have to do and you're not motivated, but you kind of have to do. And that's what it is. You got to do it. But at the same time, if there is something that you are really wanted to do, then you put as a priority. And here's another one. I say no to things. This is the other things that I have learned in a hard way too, but I have to say no to certain things. There are sometimes people asking me to do things. It could be a volunteer, or it could be a guest blogging or something. But if it doesn't, personally, me, I'm naturally like wanting to help others, but I can't help everybody, because if I said yes to something, then I'm saying no to something that is very important to me. And you might have heard of this term, time is money. And I believe that, in not necessarily money, but how do I put that? So money is something that you could return, but time is something that you cannot give back. So I guess time is not really money, but it's a valuable thing. I think that's what it is. It is valuable, and you can't buy my time, because once I give, it's not going to come back. So I have to make a good decision, and I hope that makes sense to you. So yeah, here you go. There's me, my answer. I get this question all the time. So anyhow, for those who are listening weekly, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate your support, your love. And then for those who are listening to this podcast the very first time, this episode especially, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And I hope you enjoy this podcast and you go back and download more, because I have 48 more episodes in there. So enjoy downloading. Hope you like it. All right, today's episode is actually a re-releasing the interview that I have done with Jessica Nguyen over Project Voice. She was actually my guest on episode 38, and she had talked about the power of sharing stories. Like I said, she is a host of the Project Voice podcast, and she focuses on Asian and Asian American women in general, and she talks about topics that can be very controversial too, but she's very brave enough to really share about her stories, and I really like her mission and what she does. So I went on her podcast as well, and she interviewed me about actually the Japanese society and how Japanese women are doing, and it's really gears towards the Japanese gender inequalities. This is my perspective that I have talked about. So you may have a different opinion, and that's fine. Everybody has a different opinions, but it's important to really hear what other people think, and then you make a decision from there. There are certain things that I have researched because her questions are really challenging. So I couldn't just go based on my experience. I had to look up. I had searched, and I kind of used some of the data that I've seen, and some of the things that I found out are really shocking to me. So I would like you to listen to this recording or the interview that I have done with Jessica, and let me know what you think, because I haven't been in Japan for a while, but based on the research, and I also interviewed some of my friends who are in Japan actually working, and they're all working moms too, and I think it's still relevant. Please enjoy listening to my interview with Jessica.
Welcome to Project Voice. This is Jess. Today we are gonna focus on a very special topic. Oftentimes I aim to make each episode topic that we cover applicable to the entire Asian/Asian American community. But for this episode, I want to do something a bit different, and this time focusing more on a specific community, and that is the Japanese/Japanese American community. And today our very special guest is Amigo Rasmussen, and we actually met online, and it's really exciting to have her online today to join us and share her voice with us today. I'm actually gonna have her introduce herself for a bit, but how we got in touch was that she reached out to me one day over Twitter, and we found out that we were both podcasters, and we quickly bonded over the fact over our experiences as content creator, as well as just our feelings about wanting to empower other Asian women. And I'm gonna have Emiko introduce herself today. And hi Emiko, how are you?
Hi Jess, thank you so much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. So I am go ahead and quickly tell about who I am. So I have been in San Diego, California for 14 years, and I'm actually originally from Japan. I was born and raised in Japan. It's the city called Yokohama. And I am currently mom of two, and I'm a proud working mom. And I have been in a higher education industry for over 10 years with 6 years of management experience. And so that's just a full-time job. And then on the side, I help Japanese women who don't feel confident and feel undervalued due to self-limiting beliefs, language, and cultural barriers in the U.S. And I help them to recognize their gifted talent so that they can build their self-confidence and they can do whatever they want to do without worrying about someone else's opinion. So that's just the side of what I do. And I'm also, as Jess said, I'm a podcaster. My podcast is called Her Confidence, Her Way Podcast, where I interview inspiring Japanese women who are breaking through their self-confidence and doing amazing things around the world. So that's just about me. And yeah, I feel like I do a lot, but I definitely enjoy and I just live the fullest for sure.
That is awesome. Yeah, you are one inspiring woman. You're doing so much out there. And as a podcaster, you're a coach, you're also a mom. Like, how do you find the time to do all that? I don't know. It's like very admirable of you.
Yeah, I think I focus, and then of course it is my responsibility to say no. So things that I don't think I don't want to sound like I'm very selfish, but things that is not it doesn't align to my mission or the purpose, then I would say no, or I ask for lots of help because I'm not a superwoman, so I cannot do everything and everything. So, whenever I need some help, and I have a group of moms and friends who I feel comfortably just reaching out, and of course I do the same for them whenever they need some help, and then I of course help them out. So yeah, it's just kind of like give and take.
Oh yeah, I think it's very powerful when we women come together and provide this sense of community and act as a resource for each other. And it's great seeing how this momentum of growing support from one another is picking up and how quickly it's picking up. And especially with the help of the internet, it's so much easier to reach out to people and to provide advice, information, just provide support for each other. It's like a stronger sense of solidarity through that. So like you mentioned about empowering women and more specifically like empowering Japanese women. I understand that there is a gender inequality issue in Japan, and in fact like Japan actually, despite being one of the most developed countries all over the world, it still ranks low in terms of gender equality, and like there's still room for improvement. And this is just from what I've heard, like from my friends who have either lived or studied abroad in Japan. And I was wondering whether you can share with me your perspective on what the issue is like for you. Like, what is it like from your own personal experience?
Yeah, sure. So I definitely agree that gender inequality is a big issue, especially in Japan. And then even people who are living in US who are originally grew up in Japan, I think they kind of carry the value and cultural value. So many women tend to undervalue themselves, and I totally see that. So I did some research because your questions are so good. I'm like, man, I have to do lots of research. So the current prime minister also pointed out that promoting more women in the government cabin too, and of course the workplace. But this is my opinion, but the inequality is really embedded culturally and socially, and women really struggle staying in the workforce. So based on this one was, I think it was like a Goldman Sachs, I looked it up, and it says that the Global Gender Gap Report, Japan was ranked 101st out of 145 countries surveyed. So like you said, even if although Japan is a developed country, we're pretty much the bottom of the bottom. So it was very sad to find out. And also wage gap. So by the time that the men and women are in 30, their age gap is over 30%. And I can see the reason why it is so hard for women, especially when women are getting married or having kids. That's when women leave. And for example, this is something that I know. People work long hours in Japan. Like working overtime is really expected. And then people are also expected to go to this thing called nomikai, which is it's like a social drinking, happy hour type of things. Okay. That's where the networking and relation building and even negotiations and making deals happen. So with that said, that puts a very challenging position for women, especially working moms. It's like there is no way for me to go to those nomikai, which is the, after work and going for networking and do those things. There is no way, because I have to go and pick up my kids. So those things are very hidden, but it's culturally embedded. And also Japanese culture value a lot with women like dropping out of the workforce in 20s. So there's a term, it is called kotobuki taisha. That is like a mid-20 or preparing for wedding and becoming the housewife. So that's kind of like it's a term that people call it as like, oh, I'm, kotobuki taisha, meaning I'm leaving the work because I'm preparing for a wedding and becoming a housewife. So there's even a term for it. And also, this is a shocking one. A former health minister even called women a baby making machine. That was a huge deal. So when I heard this, I was like, oh. So that was very those things are already embedded. And I also talked to, because I wanted to make sure that I'm delivering most updated information since I have been out of Japan for a while. So I asked a couple of my friends who are still in the workforce. She told me that there are some like bullying term. So whenever people are pregnant, people are often demoted or forced to quit.
Oh, wow. That's
terrible.
So
because they're pregnant. Yeah. So I think although Japanese women hold higher education than men actually, but it's just obvious that these are very hidden, but it's like culturally embedded. And for my personal experience, I actually did work in a professional environment right after I graduated from college, and I worked for this company for 1 year here in US. And then after that, I actually went back to Japan because I wanted to get the working experience. Yeah. So what I have faced is that I have seen so many women cleaning the break room. So that's like their chore, not the man's job. And I was asked to bring a coffee. My old boss, he goes, so my maiden name is Takahashi. So he goes, Takahashi-san, can you bring some coffee for the guest? And in my head, because I had the first experience of working in US, in my head, I was like, I'm not your waitress. But in the reality, I smiled and said, yes, sir. And I did that. So, yeah, I think that these are a lot. I mean, I can talk forever of what are the other experiences that I have, but these are the things that I literally have experienced, and it was wowed me a lot.
Oh, wow. No, you gave me some really good experiences. I really appreciate the fact that you even did research on this question. It means a lot knowing that you did. It's also very important, to stress how, it's to stress researching really to answer these questions, because especially if you're speaking for a community, there's this, I didn't know this, but there's this a lot of pressure on you to make sure that whatever you're saying is credible and it's legitimate. So I really appreciate that. I've heard stories from my friends too, from everyday small actions, when they're just walking in the streets, even if they're foreigners, because they're women, they're expected to walk they're sort of expected to make way for Japanese businessmen who are walking down on the same sidewalk. Or I know that Japan has been really proactive, or they try making daycare reforms a big deal, or they really try to encourage women to settle down more and start families. And for that reason, and with the increasing aging population too, it's just such this huge pressure for them to encourage more women to settle down and start families, but the women don't want to. They want to stay in the workforce. So as a result, the government tries to create more friendly daycares for them, but it turns out not to be as effective as they would like. So it got me to thinking, why is it always the women's? Why do the Japanese women have to settle down? Why can't Japanese men play their part? And so it's upsetting to realize that it's still an expectation on the Japanese women to fulfill. Anyway, so moving on from that, I wanted to know, just curious, are there efforts being made by either the Japanese society or government to empower or elevate women to a higher degree?
Yeah, so as you have mentioned, the government is really attempting to encourage more women to join the workforce through all those like initiatives. And there's a thing called what I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's like in Japanese, I think they call it like a womanomic. So it's like women and economic all combined together. So and I was actually reading an article about it, and then I'm just kind of air quoting, but it says there is not much in it for women. So it says there's a significant problem with womenomics, and there is not much in it for women. That's what it says. So what it is that pretty much what you had kind of mentioned, childcare. They don't have enough childcare. And I was actually when I went back to Japan, and I was actually playing at the park with my daughter, and then I met this lady, and we're kind of chatting, and I asked like, oh, I see, your daughter it looks like same age as mine, and doesn't she go to school? And the lady told me, and she said, no, actually I got kicked out because I'm pregnant with the second one. So they expect that I will be taking another time off. So the older one's spot is taken by other family member who needs that spot. Oh, wow. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. So it's pretty much if you have a second one, or if you pretty much had the baby for the second baby, then you cannot keep the older one in the daycare. So I was like, wow, that was crazy. And my mother, actually, she really involves with community initiatives, and she provides community for like moms to support. And I wouldn't call it a daycare, but it's like people who used to work at those daycare, they are coming as a volunteer to watch their kids. So it's just, I think it is still challenging, and like I said, it's the cultural value, and I feel like women are pretty much told to go to this path. So I actually watched one of the YouTube videos, and the guy is like asking questions to 20 something woman, like, so what would you like to do in the future? You're almost graduating college. And I was in shock when I heard so many of a women saying, what I want to do is probably I'll just get a job and work for a few years, and then I'll get married by age of 25, and that's like my dream, blah blah blah, and I will have kids. And so it's just like the idea is completely different.
Oh wow. So just to clarify, so when women are pregnant and they find out that they're having another child, they get replaced, they get automatically replaced by another woman or another...
for the childcare. So for example, I would be the totally perfect example. So I have 2 kids, right? So then my older one was in a daycare. And then as soon as the daycare find out that I am pregnant and that I am about to deliver a baby, my older daughter's spot for daycare is taken by another family, because the daycare expect that I will be taking a time off. So they see as like, oh, I don't need to have a daycare because I will be staying home. So I will be taking care of 2 kids.
Got it. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's problematic. Like, oh, you have no choice. You have no base to share your voices and something like this, and we're just going to quickly make a decision for you. It's like an automatic assumption.
Yeah, the society will make a decision for you pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Do you see any differences or similarities between the gender inequality issue in Japan and the U.S.?
I definitely think so. I mean, women in general, I know women in U.S., that people face those inequalities, but women are expected to stay at home 70% are gone for good. So like I said, it's that Kotobuki Taisha earlier that I kind of explained. And like I said, the childcare here in the U.S., there are plenty of childcare where I can just knock on the door and then the next day the spot is available, but that's not the case in Japan. And you kind of mentioned it earlier, the men's mentality for the partnership as a wife and a husband is different. So I think, I don't want to speak too much, but still I believe that men expect the woman to prepare meals every day. Right. And women are the one to do the nurturing. So that is that is still the case. And I think the idea of, have you heard of the term kawaii? It's like a girlish or pretty.
Oh yeah,
So
kawaii, like
yeah,
cute.
okay, so yeah, like a girlish kawaii is more preferable than like stylish. Like, so women who can do the job, who can earn money, those people are not really looked as preferable by men.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, so the term of women's independence, there's a term called joshiryoku. So it's joshi means woman and ryoku means power. So woman power or woman's independence. The term itself is completely different. So when I was reading some article about the term joshiryoku, that like people define as like, woman, whenever people go out for dinner together, let's say, after work, and women are the one who's serving food for them, for the man, or woman who has like handkerchief, who are kind of seen as a perfect woman. I wouldn't say perfect, but like, more woman-like.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just the idea itself is completely different.
So it's like, it's not just what you do, but it's how you present yourself as well.
Right.
In Japan. I think in general, like, the U.S., despite being a developed country too, there's a huge issue of gender inequality there. Like you see, I mean, a lot, not just like men and women, but women of color too, like the disparities in wage earnings, and also just treatment, and like how, women are expected to act. I mean, I think like in the U.S., it's, especially after hearing what you said about, what Japanese women are expected to be like I don't know whether the appearance of how we are as Americans play into effect on how like men perceive us, and like whether it affects how desirable we come off as. At the same time, like we still have a lot of room for improvement. Like there's still misogyny and sexism happening in the U.S. and just as much as like in Japan, and it's frustrating. So that's like a worldwide issue. And like there's still limited opportunities in terms of employment and education. Maybe it's just, I know that you grew up in Japan and then you immigrated over to the U.S. and like the U.S. is now your home, and it's been for like many years. Like you've lived in the U.S. for a longer time than in Japan now. And so I'm curious to know, like, how was it like for you coming here to the U.S.?
Oh yeah, so so I came here as an exchange student for 3 weeks program when I was 16. So that was just like a 3 weeks, like one time only. And ever since then, I pretty much all the experience like wowed me, and I just really wanted to expand my world and know what else is out there. I felt that, I mean, it's very cliche, but, U.S., like freedom and all that stuff. And I definitely felt that for some reasons. And I really like the idea of being able to learn different languages and culture and be able to meet people from different countries while you're in U.S. That I thought that was really cool. So that's when I decided that I'm going to come to U.S. to complete my bachelor's degree. And I ended up getting my master's degree as well. The very first time when I came here, I definitely struggled with my identity, especially, English is my second language, and I was pretty much trying to blend with American, it's kind of weird to say American people, but people from, local people, because I thought that that's the way to make friends, and I didn't know who I was because I didn't want to talk because my English, I have a Japanese accent and my grammar is horrible, and everything. I pretty much created my own wall, and I completely lost myself. But at the same time, I wanted to make my parents proud, and I pretty much worked really hard. But I guess basically I have a personality where I like to talk to people and I like to make friends. So there was one time an aha moment where I saw there are two people who was giving a presentation, and I think it was like a Chinese student, and his English wasn't that strong, and he had a very strong accent, but it was like a standing ovation, and I'm like, oh, this is it. Like, it is okay to show who I am. So that's when I started realizing, how I started to identify myself as Japanese and how proud I am to be Japanese and all that. So I had a lot of struggles here and there, but then still then, when after I graduated from college and working in the American corporate, because I didn't know how to adjust my Japanese cultural value versus the American cultural value. So there are so many times that so being reserved is seen as very beautiful things in Japan. Like, it's a virtue. So even if somebody said, oh, you did a great job, like, no, that was like nothing. Or, oh no, even if like you can do something, like you're supposed to say you can't, pretty much. So because I was following that, I had missed so many opportunities for promotion, and it was very hard. So pretty much what I have to do was learn and fail, learn a lesson, and move forward. Yeah, so because of those experiences, I overcame all those things, and I feel like I became stronger and stronger, and yeah.
I remember when we first talked, we quickly bonded over the fact that we grew up struggling with the English language. Even though I was born and raised in the US, like, I still have trouble with my grammar sometimes, and like, I sometimes just slip over or trip over my words, and it can be frustrating. And, like, knowing so many other Americans who are born and raised here and who can speak the language well, and it's, I used to not be like this. I used to not expect, like, I wouldn't have expected myself being a podcaster because of my experiences, my struggles with speaking the language. And it's just interesting that both of us, despite having this challenge, having experienced this challenge, that we were able to overcome it and even use it as a tool to empower other women. And that brings me to my next question. Can you describe to me your journey as a coach and then podcaster? What got you into coaching and what got you into podcasting?
Yeah, I love that question. So I have been in a management position for 6 years, and I have been doing the coaching. So I was leading a team, and I coached for over 30 team members, and I took a it's not the Gallup, the Strengths Finder. It's from I forgot which company, but yeah, Strengths Finder, and my number one strengths is called individualization. So pretty much I'm really good at looking at somebody's and finding, like, seeing or discovering the unique quality, like what is special, what is unique about this person. Like, I don't necessarily put I don't necessarily see people and say, they're this. Like, I don't like to grouping themselves. So I always like to find, what is unique about this person. So I think that strengths really helped me to coach my team and help them developing their talent. And but back then I didn't really realize that was my strengths, although the Strengths Finder told me that was my strengths. And I was, I feel like, because as a woman, we face those like imposter syndromes and the self-doubt and all that. So I was like, I'm not sure. And my mentor, the one who helped me to realize, like, that is your talent, that is your gift, and you got to use that. And I was like, oh yeah. And I actually did really enjoy listening and helping them to grow their talent. So that was my beginning as a coaching. So, and then after I stepped down my managing position because I needed more flexibility, so I negotiated with my boss and got a specialized position. So I'm currently working as an individual contributor, and ever since that happened, I missed that coaching part. So then I started thinking about, okay, what is my mission? Like, what can I do? Like, why am I here? How can I use my gifted talent? And that's how I quickly realized, like, wait a minute, there are so many people. There must be a lot of people out there who struggle like I did, while they're coming to US and going through the study abroad or whatever, or even people get married and people stay here, and maybe those people may need some help for how to get a job and so I thought about those things, but then I realized what was missing that prevented me to really do what I really wanted to do. And then I realized that was a self-confidence. So then I then started to kind of like coaching and wow, there are so many people who are feeling the same thing, feeling like I'm not good enough and there is no way, who am I to do these things? And no, whenever I try to do these things and like I'm always telling myself that I can't and all that. So this was my aha moment, like, okay, I went through this and I overcame, and I'm not perfect and I'm still learning, but all these experience is something that I can teach not necessarily teach, but I can coach other people. So that's how I started my coaching. And for podcasting, ever since I moved to a new house, my commute was actually 1 hour, one way for 1 hour, and then one way back for another 1 hour. So it's like 2 hours, right? So I started to listening to podcasts. I quickly falling in love with podcasts, and the very first podcast that I was listening was this thing called Working Motherhood. So that was a podcast. So all those like working moms who is doing, just pretty much being a leadership position or starting their job as an entrepreneur and all that stuff. So that's how I got inspired by, becoming an entrepreneur as well. And then, so I then decided like, okay, maybe there are some podcasts out there about the Japanese woman. Right. So I was looking, and there's nothing. And I was like, maybe I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So that was really my start. But at the same time, like I said, I do struggle with my own self-doubt. So I wanted to do it like a year before, but then I was like kept thinking like, no, I can't do this, I can't do that. So I was telling myself I cannot. So I dragged almost a year to start. Oh, wow. Now I have my podcast. So yeah.
I can totally understand where you're coming from in terms of finding the confidence to start something new, start your own podcast. Like I too started out after listening to so many podcasts. One of them, funny enough, it was the Tao of Self-Confidence, and both of us were interviewed by the host, Sheena Yap Chan. Yeah. So that was really cool, and it was just such an honor to like be on her show, for us to be one of some of the women who are inspiring in our own ways, who are trying to make a difference in our own ways and to create an impact on other people's lives, more specifically, like I think Asian women's lives. And like for me at least, when I started podcasting, I noticed that there were a lot of social justice oriented series, and I would follow them and just like, amazing women of color starting out these conversations that I always had when I was at Smith College, and all about identity politics and social injustices. But the speakers, not many of them were Asian American women, and oftentimes when they were like Asian American women podcasters, they weren't focusing on what I wanted to focus on. It was really, or the questions we asked about ourselves, like who we are as Asian women, like where do we stand in society, and what are the issues that we're facing, and how do we approach these issues. And so that's how I started my podcast. But it's interesting to hear your start, because you focus more on, like you started out focusing on Japanese American women. Like that's very specific. And I want to know, what were your experiences with the Japanese American women you have interviewed?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I really focus on Japanese women, and that can be either Japanese women who were originally from Japan, or people who are actually, no, I've never interviewed a Japanese American, but some people they consider as Japanese American. I mean, people consider themselves completely different, and here's the reason why. So many of the guests that I interview, they have been spending a time here in US for over 5 years, and some of them are over 20 years and 30 years, right? So when that happens, I noticed that there are, like, we all had a common struggle, which is to, like, who I guess, like, identity loss again. So those people who have been living in the US for over 30 years, that means maybe half of the life that they spend are here, or majority of the adult life that they spend is here in US. So they don't necessarily, so when they go back to Japan, they don't necessarily associate with the people in Japan because they feel like they're not Japanese. But then once they come back to here in US, they kind of struggle as like, well, but I'm not really fully American, but I can relate more with American. So they actually do struggle with that identity a little bit. Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting. And then some of the guests even said this, and I thought that it was very great, is that, you know, she said, I see myself as a human being and not to classify as Japanese or American. And I thought that that is very smart because sometimes, you know, even for my kids, for example, I want my daughters to be proud of being American, but also I want them to remember that they're part of Japanese. So it's hard, and, you know, it's the balancing there. But yeah, the identity is something that they all struggle.
Yeah, like it's like having an identity crisis, and you feel like you're in the middle, and you're never fully belonging to one group, one culture. It's like, you know, it's great, like, growing up as a woman of color, as an Asian woman, because Asian and Asian American women are just women of color, and you're just like another culture because you have two different, or experience different perspectives, and it is tricky, and like, that's why, you know, that's why I had Project Voice, and that's
like, and I love it.
Thank you. How do you, like, how do you, like, compromise yourself, or how do you make these compromises, or do you have to make these compromises between these two cultures? Like, it's a tricky question, and there's never really the right answer. Like, everyone has their own valid, either like Japanese American, Asian American experience, and it's an experience of your own, and therefore it's something that should be acknowledged, and it's like, it's good enough. Like, you don't really, like, at the end of the day, you don't have to prove yourself, really. It is what it is, and that's something that for me is like something very comforting to know. It's not just for me, but it's a relief, really. It's like, oh, I don't really have to prove to anyone like why I am Japanese American, why I am Japanese, or like, you know, Asian American. It's just whatever you choose to identify yourself as, there's a valid reason for it, and like, your experience is enough to back it up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So my next question is, what were some of the challenges you experienced working as a coach for Japanese / Asian women? Like, how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so the challenges that I have experienced. So once again, I'm gonna kind of like going back to specific to a Japanese woman. Yeah. The concept of coaching is still new for Japanese women for some reasons, and this is something that I had to learn in a hard way because, like I said, majority of my professional working experience, I have worked in American corporation where mentoring and coaching it's pretty much, that's, I want to say, common, and that's expected from the leadership position, versus not very many people understand the concept of coaching. So I had to help them to understand what is coaching first. So that was my first step. And it's kind of funny to say this, but so because all the things that I have learned about the self-development and the professional, all that experience are all in English. And I don't necessarily translate that to Japanese in my head. So when I try to speak to them in Japanese, I get so nervous, and I actually don't know how to, sometimes I just can't even explain it. So that is actually one of the reasons why, although I'm Japanese and my original mother language is Japanese, but I don't necessarily only do Japanese podcasting. my podcast is completely bilingual, where I don't do translation. I just use the language whatever I feel like it. So majority of them are all English. And when I do the Japanese interview, I ask the guest, like, do you want to do this interview in Japanese or in English? And the guest will decide whichever the language that they feel comfortable speaking. And so my struggle was to really, can I speak good Japanese and explain what I have learned and how I can coach them? So that was like another challenge that I have experienced. And also, as a Japanese woman, I experienced with low self-esteem, and I wasn't just confident enough to do what I really wanted to do. So yeah, those are all the challenges that I have.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that you made there about vocabulary, or sometimes it's challenging to find the right vocabulary to even figure out whether or not there is vocabulary in another language about the issues you experience, about certain concepts that may be considered too progressive or too liberal, or just like not really, you don't hear it often growing up in that certain culture. So yeah, you made a really good point there. And
thank you.
And yeah, I've listened to your podcast and it's amazing, and I will definitely encourage others to go and check it out. And we're coming near the end here. Have a couple questions left. What are some key takeaways that you would like our listeners to take away from listening to this episode?
Sure. So as a confidence building coach, I would like everyone to know that we all have a gifted talent that no one can copy. And it is our job to discover and serve your gift to people who need your gifted talent. So hope that makes sense to you. So we all have a talent. And so many people think that, oh, I'm good at this, but I think everybody can do this. But then what people don't realize is that because it comes easy to you, so you feel like that's normal, but actually it's not. So that's important, one, for you to really realize it. And then it is your job to really serve that gift and the skills and the experience to people who need it, who need your gift or the skills or the experience. So that's one. And in terms of gender inequality, I believe the first step is to really learn and understand the situation and realize that there is a gap and there is an inequality. And we're not asking, as a woman, we're not asking to be treated differently or special. We're asking to be treated the same. So I think it's very important to first really see it and face it. And that's first. I feel like so many people think that, well, this is what it is and this is how the society works, and people give up. But that's where the empowerment comes in, and, we just have to help each other. Yeah. So that is that. Let me see what else I wrote it. This is something that I have learned from Lean In, but we as a woman need to help each other, not to hate each other. I think that there's like a term catfight, and then some people, because we like to compare ourselves, which we need to stop that. And so many people are like kind of like envy the other person who's doing something really well, like, oh, she's whatever. But I think it's important as a woman, like we really help each other and promote each other. That's how, I see this all the time. So it's kind of like, it's very sad to see it. And like, why do you have to fight, or why do you have to hate? Just recognize how great she's doing. And I think that's one of the way to really build your self-confidence as well. Like you're giving somebody to boost their confidence, and that's if you're enough, then you can do that. So it's very important to recognize if somebody does something amazing, just tell her she did a great job. So I think that's important.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree everything you said there.
Thank you.
What are some resources or opportunities that you think our listeners should look into if they are looking to improve themselves, to be more confident, to be the strong, independent women we want all Asian women to be?
Yeah, so confidence, this is something that I have been telling my clients, that confidence is like a muscle. and we all have one, but we really need to start building one and using it. So as a woman, we face so many challenges, and like I said, I know I have been repeatedly saying that self-limiting beliefs and imposter syndromes and fear of failure and all that stuff, especially for Asian culture. I think we are all taught to make someone proud and make somebody happy, and you have to make sure that you have to make your parents proud. But it's just the beautiful value, and it is a beautiful value to really put somebody first, but I think we need to put ourselves first and really understand what is our success, like what is our mission, really understand that. If you're chasing like someone else's success, you're just gonna feel miserable. So as a resources, I think the first thing is the book I mentioned, Lean In. That was a game changer for me. So if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. And I like to learn from someone else's experience. So listening to a podcast, like your podcast or TED Talk, it's all free. And important thing is not just to listen, but don't stop there. Once you learn something, make sure you take some action. So write it down and make it as a priority. I know so many people make excuses like, oh, I don't have a time. But I think you make time. We all have 24 hours. So there's no excuses there. So I think it is so important to put whatever you told yourself, like this is something I'm going to do it. Make it as a priority and find an accountability partner. So that way, you are not just doing it on your own. You have somebody who is cheering for you and helping you to get through and achieve your goal.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Emiko. I really appreciate you taking the time out today to talk with me and share your perspective and experiences. It means a lot. Where can we follow you on social media or online?
Sure. So I have a website. It is called, so my name is Emiko, so it's spelled Emiko, and there are 3 words that I love, and which is empower, motivate, and inspire. That happen to be representing my name. So my website is called www.themistyle.com. So it's the and EMISTYLE.com. So that's my website where you can find all the guests where I interviewed, and also I have all the testimonials for coaching and all that. So I definitely encourage you to go there where you can sign up for free monthly letters. And I actually do everything all in English. So even if you're not a Japanese woman, if you like what I was talking today and there's something that you can relate, I definitely recommend you to sign up for my newsletter. There is a worksheet. Once you sign up for a newsletter, you can actually get a free worksheet to discover your gifted talent. This is something that I'm really passionate about, so you can get that worksheet. And I'm not really all over the social media, but I'm most active in Facebook, and I do my podcast. My podcast name is Her Confidence, Her Way. And I have recently discovered that there are so many people who are following me, but they don't use Facebook. So I have recently created a YouTube channel, so I'll send all the link to you, Jess, so that way you can put it somewhere else on your website or Facebook page or wherever.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely link them in the show notes, and when so you can even check your link, or so for the listeners out there, you can check out her links and just like all her social media accounts in the description box, or like if you're on social media, you're probably seeing it already in the captions. Yeah, so once again, thank you so much, Emiko, and thank you too to all the listeners out there who are still tuning in. I hope that this episode brought a lot of value for you. If you have any questions, let us know. Please follow on Project Voice if you want, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Project Voice AAW. I have an email, projectvoiceaaw@gmail.com, and a website, projectvoiceaaw.com. Looking forward to share more episodes with you. Tune in soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. so much for spending your time with me today. Make sure to subscribe to Her Confidence, Her Way podcast and leave a review, which will help this podcast to be more visible so that other women can find this podcast easily. For free monthly newsletter, free private Her Confidence, Her Way community, and learn how you can get free weekly lesson to help you build your self-confidence, go to www.theemmystyle.com. Ladies, you don't need a permission from someone else to believe yourself. Just be you, because you are amazing. Let's support each other and keep on building your confidence.